Welcome to the Lincoln Parish Museum and Historical Society's Sounds Like Edison with Lawrence Gibbs and Museum Director Rick Godley. Each episode, Lawrence Gibbs will choose a song from the Lincoln Parish Museum's Edison collection of records, share some historical facts and information, as well as play each record on the original 1912 Edison Phonograph in the parlor of the Lincoln Parish Museum. Now sit back and enjoy the sounds from our time machine, a 1912 Edison A-250 Model Phonograph. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Rick Godley alongside Lawrence Gibbs. We are in the parlor of the Lincoln Parish Museum, 609 North Vienna in Ruston, Louisiana, for another episode of Sounds Like Edison. This will be episode 9. Last episode, Lawrence took us in a upbeat direction. This is going to be number 2 of the Charleston Show records, all played on the 1912 A-220 Thomas Edison phonograph. And I have to say, because I have to keep reminding myself, Lawrence, this is made in a day and age where electricity wasn't prolific like we know it to be. There is no electricity on this. There was no electricity in creating these sounds, just to help people put it all in perspective so that when we talk about it being a time machine, and to me it's fun. I probably should have an Edison cam here facing out at people, because when this plays and people are just standing here, you can watch the transformation of their face and their body as well. And then people who may be walking around the museum, they hear this and they're going, what's that? And they're drawn to it like a moth to a light.
Right. It's amazing stuff. Every week when we do these things, I just get the biggest kick out of kind of going back in time. Maybe I live in the past too much, but I do know that at this time, it's kind of neat to look forward and bring this stuff forward.
Oh, well, that's exactly right. It's an honor, privilege, as well as gift and a joy to, treasure the past, be in the present, knowing we're going for the future, but at the same time, we have historical documents, not only in the form of the machine, but the records themselves.
Right, and they haven't been heard, to my knowledge, talking with Billy, that in 50 years or so, maybe more than that. So
they've been in this drawer, and so now's the time. So this is perfect. That's what we're doing here, the second renaissance of the Lincoln Parish Museum, and I almost said Natural History and Historical Society, as we create a remarkable future to make our place and space relevant for the parish, because it is Lincoln Parish Museum. So if you have any ideas, please get them to me. The Chautauqua Speaker Series is going to continue as long as we have speakers that say, yes, I want to get in front and I want to talk about this topic. And like Alan Tootin did last Chautauqua Series, and Phyllis Miller talked as well. Wesley Harris is going to have one soon. Friend us up on Facebook if you all would be so kind, and then follow, because that is one of the ways that we are going to promote all the good things that we have going on here at the museum. And then if you would be so kind, tell others about the Lincoln Parish Museum in our efforts to get open again. And we're not that far off, but we're not there yet. But I feel like somebody just coming out of a slumber, like these records.
You're right.
Having been silenced, now having a voice, and more and more people are talking about it. So great things in store, such as Sounds Like Edison, episode 9. And Lawrence, you have chosen the song "Shake Your Feet."
Yes. This was the only selection that Fletcher Henderson, the great jazz pianist and arranger, basically responsible, along with Don Redman, one of his dear friends, for the development of the swing era and the swing craze that changed the music of turn of the century into the early 1920s, from ragtime music, which was very square and things like that. He started changing it and making it better so it's easier to listen to understand, and it works for listening and dancing. And so of all things, you find this disc here. Now, this disc actually predates the one we did on number 8, I guess. This is 1923. And I think, from what I can tell, Fletcher Henderson was just the age of 26 when he was putting all of this together. He had a tremendous history in Chicago and in New York. He knew all of the greatest musicians. He knew and worked with and recorded with and arranged for like Louis Armstrong, Cootie Williams, Dickie Wells, Buster Bailey, Coleman Hawkins, Ben Webster, and Sid Catlett were people that performed with him. So some of the greatest names of orchestras of this time. You can Google any of those names and just be amazed at what you find. He was able to go around and get all of the best players, just as Red Nichols was. In fact, Red Nichols played with Fletcher Henderson on occasion. So this was part of the collection here. I did a little research. It's really one of the most popular discs out of the Edison catalog during this time. Fletcher Henderson later went on over to Victor and started recording that way. His orchestra, as great as he was, and what a great leader and arranger he was, for some reason his orchestra never could take hold. And I think he just wasn't that involved in it. He would perform and everything, but he wasn't into selling really hard. He was working, making a living with arranging and developing a whole genre of music, actually. And so anyway, what you have is a gentleman named David Stamper, who was a Tin Pan Alley composer. That's where George Gershwin hung out all the time, writing 1,000 songs a week or whatever. It was Tin Pan Alley, and this was in the middle of the Ziegfeld Follies of 1923. It was a dance number that was used in the play or the musical, let's say. So Fletcher decides to go into Edison and record this. This was the first time he recorded it. And he only recorded it one time with Edison. It took 3 takes to get it correct or to his satisfaction. He developed a 10-piece orchestra. Right after this, they started expanding every section of the jazz group to have not just 1 or 2 players, but maybe have 3 and 4 players, like 2 or 3 trumpets, 2 or 3 trombones, 4 or 5, maybe 4 saxophones, and then you had your piano, bass, and drums, and the bass was not a tuba, it was a string bass, and they had no electrification, so it was really hard to hear. So sometimes they would use a bass sax or something in there to have some low material on the disc. But this was an actual bass. A fellow named Billy Fowler was the bass player of this group. So it is a lot of fun. I was just looking here and seeing if there was anything that I'd missed. What you want to listen for. Coleman Hawkins is in this band. Ended up being one of the finest saxophone players to ever live. Had a long life, long productive life. I think 1969 he passed, and he had played almost all of his life. And so here he was, very young, like 18 or 19. I think he's 19 years old. And he is going to be playing the C melody saxophone a good bit, along with tenor sax. The way this works, Edison at that time just really could care less who was playing on the disc. He barely even took names. And so some people have actually gone back and listened to, oh, I know how that plays. That's so-and-so, you know. But he really wanted it to say, this is the name of this song, and this is the artist that is playing, and it's all good, you know. Mm-hmm. And but for us people that would like to go back and know more about how it happened, mm-hmm. There's very little that records that were kept. And so anyway, we do know that on this disc, Fletcher Henderson's playing piano, Coleman Hawkins is on the woodwinds, and 2 unaccredited alto sax players, so they don't know who they are. Teddy Nixon is on the trombone. Trumpets were Elmer Chambers and Howard Scott. They were players that were renowned in that era for being really good players in the pit orchestras for the Broadway shows. Billy Fowler on bass, Charlie Dixon on banjo. That's before they allowed guitar. Guitar was such a soft instrument, it couldn't be recorded well. But the banjo had that percussive drum, almost a snare drum head on it that would give the pulse. And that helped. The drummer worked with the banjo player. The drummer was Kaiser Marshall on this recording. You'll notice that Fletcher Henderson liked to have communication within the sections. He would have the trumpets state something, and then a few bars later, something similar would be coming from the saxophones. Or there was something that the trombones would do, and the saxophones would. It was called call and response, or call and answer, and it was developed at this time with what Fletcher Henderson was doing. It just seemed to be, instead of everybody playing at the same time, all on the top of each other, which was the traditional Dixieland way. The better Dixieland groups, the Dukes of Dixieland and all of those, they learned how to know when to go and not. And so it just wasn't cacophony. It was really planned out, but not written down. Now, what Fletcher Henderson did was give it a sense of that, but every note is written down, and it's all balanced. That's why it's called an arrangement, because they found out that the bigger the groups got, it was impossible for it to not be cluttered and hard to listen to, and everybody was trying to outshine everybody else, but Fletcher and Don Redmond got together and said, no, there's got to be a plan. Everybody has to have their place. There's somebody that does the number one vocal or the number one melody, then you've got a counter melody, something different, then you have a bass line, and then you have something in the rhythm to keep it all going smoothly. And so I think that Fletcher Henderson never did, in my opinion, get the notoriety that he deserved, because he had a stroke at the age of I think 55, and he had been with Benny Goodman from 1935 till that time, constantly putting out fresh arrangements for Benny Goodman to do, and Benny Goodman was very good about giving Fletcher all credits, and so you look back there, and he did 2 or 3 albums of just Fletcher Henderson arrangements that everybody knew were the finest that Benny Goodman did. Most of them were for Fletcher's original orchestra, and he didn't change hardly a note. He might have refreshened them a little bit for a more modern time, but Fletcher Henderson loved the way Benny Goodman played his own arrangements that he couldn't get his own band to play. So when you hear the Goodman charts, sometimes you'll notice if it's by Fletcher Henderson, what you're getting ready to hear is his first major recording session at the age of 26 in 1923, when he really just started to become somebody.
Awesome.
Are we ready?
Sure enough. Recorded November of 1923. Shake Your Feet. Dave Stamper from the Ziegfeld Follies. We're going to enjoy Fletcher Henderson and his orchestra, Episode 9, Sounds Like Edison, from the Parlor of the Lincoln Parish Museum, 609 North Vienna, Ruston. There you have it. Shake Your Feet. Dave Stampler from the Ziegfeld Follies, 1923. Fletcher Henderson and his orchestra. Rick Godley alongside Lawrence Gibbs. Lawrence, again, the clarity of the clarinet, the clarity of all the instrumentation that I heard. Folks, this is a 100-year-old record.
Yes.
On a 112-year-old
machine.
phonograph. That's why it's a time machine, or I should probably call it a timeless machine.
Mm-hmm.
You said something before in your introduction when you described this was a transition from ragtime music, square, into a swing. You weren't saying ragtime music was square in a beat way. You know what I mean? Square. You were defining the music.
Yes.
Correct?
As it
Because
developed,
ragtime music to me has life.
Oh,
it's not, and it does.
And it does. And at the time, the the old Western saloons and stuff, everybody, they sent people out to entertain. Well, they entertained by playing any American song they knew in that stride style, which was roadhouse piano, really. The thing was that the rhythms were kind of nervous sounding because they were jerky, and all it was syncopation, ragging, they called it ragging the scale, doo-ba-doo-ba-doo-ba-doo-ba-doo, that kind of thing. And then eventually, and it made it kind of difficult to dance to. So they had to relax it a little bit, and this is where Fletcher Henderson starts. It didn't all happen right here. This was where you notice, and he also wanted to have the conversation within the band sections. You heard that ba-da-la-ba-dum, bum, ba-da-la-ba-dum. That was clearly a musical conversation, and he composed that in his arrangement, and that's where that started making music much more listenable and interesting, and making you want to hear it again.
Well, I think you used the word cacophony and so what I'm hearing you say, what Fletcher Henderson did was to put some order in the cacophony, at the same time leaving the cacophony because that's part of the sound.
Yeah, the solos can be very active, and that's where that is. The busy work, because they show out. But then in the other sections, it's great if you can find a way to just have everything orderly and going forward and making sense. So that's where his great gift was.
There you have it. Episode number 9 of Shake Your Feet, Sounds Like Edison, from the Parlor of the Lincoln Parish Museum, 609 North Vienna in Ruston. Lawrence Gibbs, I'm Rick Godley. If you would do a couple of things for us, that would help us out as we wake up to a great potential here in the second Renaissance. Follow us on Facebook. Like this episode if you like it. If not, tell others why you don't like it, or tell us why you don't like it, and we'll make it better. But also subscribe to the channel and then pass the message far and wide, because we have a great opportunity here in the sesquicentennial 150th anniversary of the founding of Lincoln Parish. So help us help more, pass the word, as we are the parish Museum, the Lincoln Parish Museum and Historical Society. Any other closing thoughts there, my friend?
Well, I just wonder if people have requests, if they know of this music and they might want, I can look and see if we have it in the collection.
Well,
and we can do that, use that for for future shows.
You're bringing up a really good idea, and let's just think off the top of my bald head, that's why I wear a hat inside the house, is you have these catalogs, so we can post that catalog up on Facebook, and if you want to choose an episode, that's an audience choice. So we can,
sure.
We'll throw, see, that's how we work it around here. You take a good idea, polish it up, and make it better, and include as many people as possible. I like
Sure.
that.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
And
since phones, you couldn't call in requests back then. We want to honor, or no, send us a telegram. No.
Telegraph, that's it. That's
a telegraph, sure.
Stop.
All right, episode 9 of Sounds Like Edison, Shake Your Feet, here from the Lincoln Parish Museum and Historical Society, 609 North Vienna in Ruston. For Lawrence Gibbs, I'm Rick Godley, and you have been enjoying another episode of
Sounds Like Edison.
Thank you for watching the Lincoln Parish Museum and Historical Society's Sounds Like Edison with Lawrence Gibbs and Museum Director Rick Godley. Keep in mind, we're a nonprofit organization and we welcome your ideas, suggestions, as well as financial support to sustain our efforts to create a remarkable future as we embark on our second renaissance. Our address is 609 North Vienna Street, Ruston, Louisiana, 71270. Kindly follow us on Facebook to keep connected for future events, exhibits, and educational opportunities about Lincoln Parish. Sounds Like Edison is a Godly Works production.